Artificial intelligence is being used in lots of places, in surveillance, in predicting crime, in deciding who to give loans to. And the problem is, and there have been cases identified where people's racial and cultural biases get programmed in. They don't think of themselves as biased, and they're not trying to build bias into the system. But if you have a certain perspective, that's how you build whatever is being built. And then it goes into operation, and all of a sudden, the impact of it is there are entire classes of people who are being disadvantaged because the system is biased. That's the problem. And if you just take the set of people who, in this country, let's put it, because every country is different, and there's a certain class of people who go in. The ones who go in tend to be from the privileged segment of society because they have access to the education and so on and so forth. So whatever their biases are, they get built into the system. And so it's important for the managers to make sure that when these systems are being built, first of all, as part of the design process, people from multiple perspectives and backgrounds are involved in the design process. They don't have to be coders, they don't have to be mathematicians, they don't have to be computer scientists, but they have to be part of the design process. What are you building? What is it going to do? How is it going to do it? What rules will be used in making decisions? That doesn't require technical knowledge in the sense of being, computer science or engineering or what have you, but it does require thinking as a human being within a human society. So that portion is important. And then in testing those systems, because the systems very often get deployed, they aren't really tested with cases which will test the system with regard to saying, is this the right decision or the wrong decision? If you've never given the system a case where it comes back with a negative output, you haven't really tested it. So you say, well, it works every time I asked it a question, or every time I asked it to give a loan, it gave a loan to the right person, and then you deploy it, and then some case arises, and the system discriminates. And people think, oh, it's legitimate, but it's because it wasn't tested, and nobody wants to question the computer. Even today, I mean, for 10, 15, 20 years ago, I personally have had experiences. You call up a company, this is wrong. Well, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. The computer is programmed that way. With AI, that's only going to get worse, because it's a more complex system. It's going to be harder to change. Its consequences are going to be widespread, and that's a real challenge, and that's a real danger. So this stuff like Hawking and others and Musk, and they go on about AI taking over the world. That's nonsense. I don't think that's an issue at all. The issue is very mundane. Have you built a system that discriminates against certain classes of people? And there are probably systems out there like that right now. The question then arises is it something that you have programmed to respond in that fashion? For instance, if you think about chatbots, and many chatbots are available on the internet, you say something and the bot responds, and you say something else and it responds to that. In fact, these chatbots go back to the 1970s, one of the very first ones. It wasn't called a chatbot then, it was Eliza. It was supposed to be like a psychologist, and people really related to it, and they just tell their life story and so on and so forth. But it was just a set of programmed responses to certain keywords, and that is what is present today in the chatbots that you encounter. They may be a little bit more sophisticated in terms of recognizing keywords and putting multiple keywords together, but it's essentially the responses are pre-programmed. And that is something that is called weak AI. In other words, it simulates the behavior of a human being or the responses that a human being would provide, but it's pre-programmed. There is nothing that is new that arises when it encounters something like that. Everything is essentially pre-programmed. Now, in my opinion, that can actually change if you use certain types of algorithms like genetic algorithms, which are susceptible to mutation, and they therefore can give rise to new responses. I would also put that under the classification of weak AI. And that is distinguished from strong AI, where the computer still responds like a human being, but it's actually thinking. It understands the meaning of what it's saying. So when if you show it an apple and say, oh, that apple looks delicious, it actually understands what delicious means, and the satisfaction that one gets from eating something like that, as opposed to weak AI, which just recognizes, oh, this is an apple. If somebody is showing it to me and saying, do you like it? I'm going to respond by saying, it's delicious. it doesn't really know what's going on. It's just a stimulus response kind of behavior, as opposed to if I was to show it to a human being who would look at it and be able to appreciate it for what it was, its smell, its taste, its texture, and so on and so forth, and respond in that particular fashion. So the sense of meaning, and the larger question is, can something that is not aware of itself actually understand meaning? And this gets into both philosophy and technology, and it's wide open right now. We don't know what will happen. Will someday there be a genuine thinker? Absolutely. I think someday there will be a genuine thinker, but that day is not close. It's probably going to be decades in the future.